In this video, we're talking about principle number 4, the 4 stages of disease. And let's just start first by looking at how a disease may manifest in your body. So we already discussed in previous videos how it is we produce our blood, and the truth is that which flows in the blood in your vein, it never lies. Your blood is your lifeblood, and you do only 4 things to produce this blood, which is you eat, drink, breathe, and think. These 4 things biologically that you must do become your biochemical. And then there's 4 ways in which you throw out the dirt: the rectum, kidney, lungs, and skin. And if you didn't bring the good in and you didn't throw out the bad, it's going to come back into the bloodstream and affect the nature of that blood. There's 5 liters of blood approximately and 15 liters of lymph fluid in an average human body. But what is lymph and what is blood? And how together 20 liters of biochemical that do similar work in your body. In your blood is your red blood cells, which are floating around in the serum, which is that part of your blood that you have to produce by how you eat, drink, breathe, and think, and which is also affected by what you don't throw out. At our center, we take a drop of that blood and we put it under our microscope and we do a live blood analysis. And all I'm really looking for at that time is to look at the nature of the serum, because that's what you produce. And then I show people, look, this is what you've done and look what your serum looks like. And it's often very viscous and very sticky, so the red blood cells are all coagulated. And most of these people actually have high blood pressure, tension, and so on. But how does blood and lymph work together? This serum part, or the 92% the water part of your blood, goes through the capillary walls to service the cells. The cells that are closest to the capillary walls can be directly fed. Remember that you eat, drink, breathe, and think, especially eat and drink, simply to feed your cells so that your cells can do their job of looking, listening, smelling, tasting, and everything that this machine must do to function efficiently. So we gotta feed them, and they need to be fed 24/7. So that's why we have the liver that distributes after we eat, digest, absorb into the bloodstream, store in the liver, and feed them 24/7. Now the cells that are further away from your capillary are unable to immediately access the nutrition from your blood vessel here. So the serum gets in between the cells and moves further up to feed these cells. And when it leaves your blood vessel, it's now called interstitial fluid or intracellular fluid, because it's going between the cells to go feed the cells that are further away from your capillary. When the interstitial fluid supplies them with the nutrition, they also pick up the waste from the cells as they do what they need to do. And remember from the previous videos, they do over 100,000 things in any given moment. So they pick up the waste and start to move away. And the moment they start moving away, they are now called lymph fluid. So it was blood, serum, interstitial or intracellular fluid, and now it's lymph fluid. And on that system, there are filters called lymph glands, which now filter the waste that comes through. These filters collect waste and eventually get rid of it through some of the elimination organs in the body. And the lymph fluid then flows not in blood vessels like the blood does. It does not even have a pump called a heart to help circulate it around within these tubes, but it flows in channels in the body. And there are specific areas where they do flow in. There are specific areas where these lymph glands or these filters are located. And when they swell with too much toxicity in the body, those are the areas where you start to feel the ache and pain. And when it collects over a long period of time, then it starts to move through these 4 stages of disease. This is 15 liters, and this is 5 liters. So this fluid now comes to the chest area, around this area, and it rejoins your blood circulatory system. So it's almost like they're cousins going around and doing their job. But what's important to take note of, once again, is how would lymph flow? Firstly, even when blood goes down to the toe, it may be easy by gravity to get there, but to get back up again, there's no pump in the toe to push it up again. It's your diaphragm. When your diaphragm moves up and down through proper breathing, it actually stimulates the blood to move further up. And often people end up with varicose veins and so on because of poor circulatory system. That's because their breathing is not even adequate. And most people, obviously, as we discussed before, are so bloated here that they cannot breathe adequately. This colon that is distended pushes up against the diaphragm and takes up space. This is the engine room, the piston within the engine. It must move. That's why we were creatures of mobility in our natural environment. We never lived a sedentary lifestyle like we do now. We've become pale facsimiles of original species. Therefore, we're an endangered species. 95% of the world's population is sick. So when lymph needs to move, it is also dependent on body movement. When we do this, it's the milking action of the muscles. They're like spindles, and these are located at junctures where the muscle has to twist, and therefore yoga exercises and so on activate the release of these chemicals or these waste that is stored in your lymph glands. Now, if it's not moved out, then it will collect and start to give off a bit of pain in those particular areas. So if you go and search, you'll be able to locate there's some that are on the surface and there are some that are quite deep in there. The reason for talking about how blood becomes lymph fluid and how they work together is to demystify why diseases happen in the body. We don't have to study for all those years to understand this magnificent body. When I started writing Being Human and researching in those days when there was no internet, and found little snippets that made me think deeper and deeper, and I wondered why nobody ever teaches us this stuff in school, because I could start to see how things work when you put them together. It's like a spider's web. When you touch a strand, you cannot help but affect the rest of it. So to understand your arthritis, high blood pressure, cancer, gout, you've got to understand your blood circulatory system in the way that it is so simple to understand. That blood, 5 liters, there's plasma, which becomes interstitial fluid, which becomes lymph. Got filters in it, each one looks like that. So the lymph fluid comes in here, filters itself out and goes off. And on this chart you can see these clear circles are where the lymph glands are near the surface. So you'll be able to actually feel around, and when you feel one of them and you think, why is that painful? It's because these have collected quite a lot of toxicity. And I have specific exercises that I do. I can press on this and just roll here. Roll my shoulder, not my elbow, because I must make circles with this, and it starts to make the spindles that are my muscles move in either direction, and it releases the toxicity from there. So I'm able to relieve the pain. And throughout the body, there are specific places you can go in and feel your own body, and you can see where the poisons are stuck. Should you have somebody that, if you're fortunate enough to give you a massage, it's one of the ways to move lymph along, because this is just a spongy tissue and the fluid can stagnate there. It shouldn't. Life is movement. The opposite of life is death. The opposite of movement is stagnation. Where fluid starts stagnating in your body, death starts happening there. And that's the 4 stages of disease that we'll discuss shortly. The best way, obviously, is through cardiovascular exercise, the body movement. walking even. You do not walk like a zombie. You walk as a bicyclical movement. Just that movement and the spinal twist that happens from there releases a neurochemical that improves your immune system or boosts your immune system. So throughout the body, there's about 700 of these lymph glands or filters that clean your body. And it's when they start to swell in different areas, that's where your disease starts. In the beginning, you have a pain, and that's the first stage, the acute stage of disease. The pain comes and it goes because your body's talking to you through this signal that something's not quite right. And I have learned that if I have that signal in my body, I immediately have to go back, all the way back, and check 1, 2, 3, 4. How am I eating, drinking, breathing, and thinking? How am I producing my biochemical? Why is it giving me that signal of pain? And as I wrote in Being Human, there's only 2 ways I know of that I can have pain. One is through an accident. It's Mother Nature, or God's way of saying, take care of yourself because I don't want broken and damaged organisms crawling around on this planet. So pain then is a messenger from the Creator not to damage this body. So I stop when I feel some pain, if I knock myself on an instrument or so. And the second way to have pain is through toxic buildup, especially in your lymph glands and organs in the body. It's not meant to be there. So then I go back and I retrace my tracks and I check how I'm doing these 4 things, producing my lymph gland. Am I throwing out all the waste from the elimination organs? Is this machine clean? Like any machine you expect to work, it should be clean or else it's going to break. And we call that disease by different names in different parts of the body. So here is the body full of lymph glands. When it starts to stick, let's just say in my knee, and there's a little pain there, there's a bit of a pain here, and I ignore it because I'm busy and I desensitize myself to me. Therefore, I say that sick is the new healthy. You ask somebody, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. I just have a backache or a knee ache or so, and we go on. So acute stage is pain comes and it goes. Subacute is when pain comes, but it doesn't leave that easily. It stays a little longer, and you start to get concerned. So you go to a practitioner and then they give you a particular medicine. Let's just say a blue pill. Go swallow this blue pill and it'll take away your pain. And of course, there's a miracle in this pill almost. You swallow it and it numbs your brain from feeling your pain, and you think, oh, it's all okay. But the waste is still there. And after a while of using that particular medication, you find that it is no longer able to numb you against your pain because the toxic buildup is even worse than what it was when you first started in the subacute stage. So you go after the practitioner and you say, these pills don't work anymore. Okay, here's a green one. Take this, it's much stronger. And you go and it numbs your brain from feeling that pain. You think, oh, this is a miracle. It's fine, it's fantastic. But after a while, the subacute stage, it comes and it stays there. And it doesn't go at all. And you go back to the practitioner and then he gives you a diagnosis, because they can only tell you what's wrong after it is wrong. If you know something is not quite right and you go there and you say, I don't feel so good, they do all the tests and say you're all clear. Go off. Take this bag of medicines and trot off. And so you leave and you know you're not right. And why are they saying everything's clear? That's because it's not reached that chronic stage, the 3rd stage, which is chronic, where the pain comes and it's always there. And then now they can give you a diagnosis and say, oh, you've got this tumor, you've got this cancer, or we call that arthritis or cervical spondylosis. And then the medication changes. Once again, I'm now on chronic meds. I have diabetes, I have high blood pressure. But in the meantime, the waste is accumulating in this system. And finally, after that chronic stage of disease, which can take 2 to 20 years to get there, depending on how you do these 4 things and how you don't throw out waste. But when it reaches a degenerate stage, it just simply means that the cells themselves are dying, they're decaying. So you go off and then they say, okay, we have to cut off change and throw you back out on the street again, none the wiser. And you become stuck in trade in a system which obviously we discussed in the previous video. We call the healthcare system. but it's a disease care system because they're experts at taking care of your disease. Your healthcare system is eat, drink, breathe, and think according to how the Creator wanted you on the right-hand side, not on the left-hand side. The devil says factory and God says tree. So where are you living from? You have to go back and investigate if you want to get better. The first thing you do if you want to start reversing your diseases is stop making it worse, which is go back and look at these 4 things again. That's how simple it is. That's all you do, 4 things. Put that right and start cleaning out your body, and then the cells will divide and multiply in a cleaner environment. And what is the environment of the cells? The environment of the cell is your fluid, these 20 liters of biochemical. That is their external environment. But it is your internal environment because you brought the external from the outside, the raw materials, and you created this internal environment, which is the cell's external environment. That is the world within your skin. And you are the creator or the destroyer of the world you live in. I created my own diseases. They didn't jump off the sidewalk or fall from the sky, or it wasn't hereditary because I wasn't born with that. Why, after years of abuse on these 4 levels, do I show up with the same diabetes that my parents have? Yes, perhaps on a 5% level, there are genes that you carry. But it's only after abuse of many years, you weren't born with that stuff. So get off this norm where you think that you're a victim of your genes. You're not. Epigenetics talks to us about the environment of the genes, and you are the one who create that environment internally every day. Are you committing unintentional suicide and killing yourself in installments on a daily basis? Maybe after this it's no longer unintentional because you've been told that you have to do these 4 things on the right-hand side with the Creator, not on the left-hand side with the Destroyer. In the next video, I just talk a little bit about the solution that we provide here at our center in Durban, Westville, South Africa, and what it is I do for the last 25 or nearly 30 years to help people reverse their diseases. And much of it you can do wherever you are because it's no rocket science. I mean, if your car's not driving nice on the freeway, you don't go paint, you service. It's all we do here. We service the vehicle of the soul by removing the toxic waste.